Just stay dedicated, stay committed. This is not something that just happened yesterday or happened overnight. And people may think them know things and want to assume things, but people not truly understand, say, over 10 years of work, people putting in, man a put in, and man a go through the fire, right? Man a go through all of the chattings, man a go through, the persecution of what people saying. And you just have to just shut them out. When you're dedicated to a certain thing and you know your passion, and say there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and when you fear God, that's what it is. That is it. We're a God-fearing people, right? And we listen when God talk, and God gave us a mission, and we're seeing it through. Peace be upon you. Stay committed. God is the greatest.
Peace and love to all. Peace and love especially to my Jamaica family. So I'm here to discuss today the matter of constitutional change, constitutional amendment in Jamaica on the road to a free, sovereign, independent Jamaican Republic, and the way that the government of Jamaica is going about this process. I was shocked last week to receive a message from a close friend in which this was a notice, a bulletin from the Parliament of Jamaica stating that they wanted to receive submissions, written submissions about Jamaican people's concerns with regards to this constitutional amendment bill that they were tabling in Parliament before the Joint Select Committee. Now, what was shocking about it was that this notice was received by me on the 27th of January, and it was dated the 27th of January. And the deadline that was on this notice was the 29th of January. So not even really 2 days, call it 1.5 days. So as indigenous representatives, a body of us had to now be scrambling, because we knew that there was no representation for indigenous people within this first phase of the parliamentary amendment of the Constitution. So we had to go through the bill, and we had to reflect on what we would want as indigenous people. And it was shocking, really and truly. There was no mention of the indigenous people, the maroon nations, the maroon peoples of Jamaica. There was all talk about the sacrifice and the fighting spirit and thing of Jamaicans, which Jamaicans also include people who purchase their citizenship. There's no recognition for the natural born Jamaicans on the land. And there was no recognition of the fight that the indigenous peoples, the indigenous groups put up, our ancestors put up against Spanish and British colonization. We saw this bill as a precursor to serious cultural erasure and historical erasure and revisionism in Jamaica. Also, as indigenous spiritual practitioners and spiritual leaders, we took note that within this constitutional amendment bill, there were certain national items. One of them was a national prayer, which was a Christian prayer, invoking the Christian God, Jesus Christ. And we found that quite shocking in a nation that is proclaiming within the Constitution to have absolute freedom of religion, We also take note of the fact that the Prime Minister, Mr. Andrew Holness, was at a Seventh-day Adventist Freedom of Religion Summit, or whatever they called it. And he was expounding and extolling the virtues of freedom of religion in Jamaica. And he was saying that Jamaica is completely free when it comes on to spiritual practice. But it only seems like the only set of people who have that freedom is Christians. And we don't see any inclusion of our indigenous traditions. As a matter of fact, the Obia Act that criminalizes our indigenous traditional spirituality is still in effect. So what we see this as maroon advocates, as indigenous rights advocates, we see this constitutional amendment as an attack on our people, on our rights, on our history. And we will not sit by idly or quietly and watch this attack take place, because our elders consider that this attack started in 1962 when one set of people went off to England and had a private conversation with the Queen about their arrangement going forward. And we recognize that these people were relatives of the same colonists. And this is just the ugly truth. The fact of the matter is that there is an attempt to leave behind the indigenous people, the maroon nations of Jamaica, again. And we will not accept it. We will not accept it. We simply will not accept it. And it is unconscionable, especially being that the government of Jamaica is signatory to several indigenous conventions in international law and international fora, to include but not limited to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. So we're really concerned and wondering why it is that we are being ignored. But I can assure the government of Jamaica and the people of Jamaica that we will not be silent and we will not sit idly by. And for all well-thinking Jamaican people who know their roots, who know their heritage, I would suggest that you support us and let us stand together to ensure that the sacrifices of our ancestors are not ignored. This was Alex Mile Priest. Peace and love.